This is the biggest crypto crime bust in world history. The US government just snatched $15 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's enough money to buy every single person in New York City a brand new iPhone. We're talking about 127,000 Bitcoin seized, and the story behind it involves human slavery, fake romance, and a shadowy kingpin who is still on the run. This isn't a story about a few hackers in a basement. This is about a massive criminal empire called the Prince Group. The U.S. Treasury Department officially designated them a transnational criminal organization, meaning they operate just like the mafia, but across dozens of countries. The founder and chairman of this monster organization is a businessman named Chen Z. He's 37 years old, a Chinese national who also holds Cambodian citizenship. He built a legitimate-looking corporate conglomerate across more than 30 countries, dealing in real estate and financial services. But prosecutors say that was just a front. Behind that front, Chen Z was the alleged mastermind of a sprawling cyber fraud operation, which U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella called one of the largest investment fraud operations in history. And here's how they made their insane amount of cash: pig butchering. It's a disgusting name, but it perfectly describes the crime. These syndicates fatten up the pig before the slaughter. They target Americans, contacting them through social media or messaging apps like WhatsApp. They pretend to be building trust, sometimes even feigning a serious romantic relationship over weeks or months. This is a psychological long con. Once the victim trusts their new friend or love interest, the scammer lures them into a fake investment. They promise huge returns, usually with cryptocurrency. The victims send their crypto or cash to these fake platforms, hoping to get rich. Instead, their funds are instantly stolen and laundered. The scale of this operation is staggering. At its peak, prosecutors say Chen Z bragged his scam was pulling in $30 million every single day. But the fraud relies on something far darker than just fake crypto platforms: forced labor. Chen Z allegedly directed the operation of at least 10 forced labor scam compounds across Cambodia. These compounds weren't just offices, they were violent prisons. Trafficked workers were lured there by fake job ads promising customer service or tech support roles. Once they arrived, their passports were seized and they were held captive, often surrounded by high walls and barbed wire fences. These enslaved workers were forced to run the scams, sometimes working punishing shifts up to 16 hours a day. They controlled enormous automated call centers known as phone farms, using thousands of mobile phones lined up on racks. In just two of these compounds alone, authorities found 1,250 cell phones controlling 76,000 fake social media accounts. Imagine the sheer volume of fake messages sent to unsuspecting Americans every minute. If these captive workers failed to meet their high financial quotas, they faced brutal consequences, including beatings and torture. Evidence seized by the Department of Justice included photographs of men with bloody gashes and red lash marks. Chen Z himself allegedly approved of violence against workers causing trouble, specifically cautioning that they should not be beaten to death. The entire operation was a sprawling criminal enterprise built on human misery and suffering. Now, where did this mountain of stolen crypto go? They cashed it out for a ridiculously lavish lifestyle. The alleged proceeds were funneled through Prince Group businesses, including its own banking subsidiary and gambling operations, and then laundered through shell companies and digital wallets across the world. They blew the victims' money on expensive trash. We're talking yachts, private jets, luxury vacation homes, high-end collectibles, watches, and rare artwork. Prosecutors specifically called out the purchase of a Picasso painting that Chen's associates bought through an auction house in New York City. The UK authorities, who coordinated sanctions with the US, also froze millions of dollars worth of luxury properties linked to Chen Z in London, including a mansion in North London worth $12 million and an office building worth $100 million in London's financial district. This crackdown is massive because the victim pool is huge. Americans are losing wealth to these syndicates at an epidemic rate. Last year alone, the U.S. Treasury Department estimates that Americans lost at least $10 billion to scams based in Southeast Asia. This is a 66% jump from the year before. This record seizure of $15 billion in Bitcoin is now in the U.S. government's possession, making the Department of Justice's forfeiture action the largest in its entire history. But the story gets stranger, and this is where it affects the market. The Trump administration had previously ordered the creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile. This reserve isn't funded by taxpayer money, but by assets seized from criminals. This $15 billion haul is so enormous that it may become the single largest injection of value into America's official crypto holdings, testing the entire plan for the strategic reserve. The US government is suddenly a major player in the Bitcoin market. We know exactly how much gold is held in Fort Knox, but the total size of the government's crypto stash is unclear. If the government decides to sell off this seized crypto quickly, that could seriously rattle the entire global Bitcoin market. Prosecutors and law enforcement are now acting like unexpected market forces. And here's the biggest mystery in this whole operation. Where did the Bitcoin actually come from? On-chain analysis suggests that the 127,000 Bitcoin seized by the Department of Justice were the same funds allegedly stolen in 2020 from Lubion, a Bitcoin mining business with operations in China and Iran. The indictment suggests Lubion was one of the legitimate-looking businesses Chen Z used to launder his stolen crypto. This raises a crazy question. Was the disappearance of that Bitcoin a genuine theft by an opportunistic hacker who later came to the attention of US authorities? Or was the theft staged by Chen Z himself to make his dirty money look clean? Nobody knows for sure how the US government got the cryptographic keys to seize the funds. The money simply moved into wallets controlled by US authorities in the summer of 2024. Right now, the case is a symbol of the dark side of digital assets. While many argue crypto helps law enforcement trace funds because of the public blockchain ledger, the fact that the two largest asset seizures in history have both been Bitcoin shows that criminals are still putting immense amounts of wealth into digital coins. The US government is now trying to balance prosecuting crime with positioning itself as a strategic market participant, and they have to figure out how to give money back to the thousands of victims who lost their life savings, especially since Bitcoin prices swing wildly. The alleged mastermind, Chen Z, who faces up to 40 years in prison, is still at large. Authorities are hunting him across multiple continents, and the global crackdown on his network, including sanctions against more than 140 associated entities and individuals, is just beginning. The fate of that $15 billion and whether it goes back to victims or into the U.S. Strategic Reserve is a huge question mark that everyone in finance needs to watch. Hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss what happens next. I'll catch you later.